Welcome to Radio City India again, and this is the Radio City Freedom Exchange. I'm Vijayalakshmi, and joining me today is frontman vocalist Varun Rajput from Antariksh, who is all smiles right now because he's just dropped the music video of his latest with Marty Friedman. If you have not heard Quest yet, I don't know what you all are doing. You are surely living under a rock. So, welcome, Varun. Firstly, congratulations are in order for not just this fabulous collaboration that you all have pulled off, but also for the music video, which is really looking inspiring and lovely. I want to first begin by asking you when Marty Friedman, the Marty Friedman, the guitarist that everybody knows from Megadeth, when he agreed to collaborate with you guys, what was that feeling?
Hey, firstly, thank you so much for having me on board for this. Really excited to be here. And as you mentioned, the videos just come out today. And I am, yes, all smiles and super excited. Going back to the moment when Marty actually agreed to come on board for this project, it was like literally surreal, right? I couldn't believe that he did agree. So the collaboration kind of happened in a really bizarre way, if you will. We were playing at the Weekender Festival in Shillong, and so was Marty. And we stayed back the day to watch him live. And while returning to Delhi, from Shillong, we just realized that he was sitting 2 rows ahead of us in the aircraft. And the flight was delayed by almost 3.5 hours. And but during the entire flight, none of us had I don't know, the courage to just go up to him, or we probably didn't want to disturb those guys as they were sleeping. So when we landed in Delhi, I finally thought, I have to go and say hello. Of course, I'd been a big fan for all these years, and in fact, I used to learn guitar, by watching his DVD back in the day. So it was insane, right? I went up to him, introduced myself. We spoke about some of his music, some of his recent collaborations. And, all the while, I watched him play last night, this thought was going in my head that if I could just ask him, if he'd be up for playing a solo on one of our songs. And I don't know, where did I get the courage to do so? But for somehow I just managed to. And I asked him about it. To which he kind of was almost like politely declined at that point in time, because he mentioned that like he wouldn't really recommend, since the studio costs are really high in Japan, and he usually doesn't do a lot of session stuff for multiple reasons. But he still asked me to write to him and send him some of our music. So I went back home, I sent him some of my stuff. He took the amazing thing is that he actually took the time to listen to more than what I had sent him. I think I sent him 3 or 4 songs, and he ended up listening to a lot more, and wrote back saying that he really liked it, and he thought that it sounded really international and unique to him coming from an Indian act, which was like a big thing in itself, and I was more than happy with that. Let alone getting a chance to have him play on our song. It was when I sent him a demo for Quest, I just sent it across and I said, just in case you like it, it'll be amazing, and it's okay if you can't. And when he heard the song, he wrote back saying that okay, he's up for it. So yeah, I mean, it was one hell of a moment, right? I still I couldn't believe it for a long time that he did agree, but yeah, it was insane. And everything else just panned out really well ever since. And it's amazing, right? It's you can't plan this stuff, right? So really happy that it happened. And yeah, that again, couldn't just believe it, but here we are.
Who would have thought that a flight shared between two people, would bring them to collaborate together? But Varun, if I may ask, uh, the songwriting of Quest is so moving and so poignant. It is, it's something that resonates with everybody alike, irrespective of what walk of life do they come from. When you were writing the song, what was that one innate thought, or what was that one inkling that pushed you to this direction, and you said that no, this is the song that I want to put out there?
Right. So, how it functions for us is that the process of writing the musical bit of it and the lyrical bit are kind of independent. And, we'd written this riff back in 2009 or 10 for one of my first bands. And it was just lying in one of my folders all these years until, 2019, when we thought, why don't we bring it out and turn this into something. It was definitely a lot heavier and very different from the kind of music Antariksh was putting out at that point in time. But to answer your question, the lyrical idea came to me while actually being stuck in a traffic jam. So I remember I was heading for a rehearsal, and there was a jam, and I realized that all the cars had been stopped just to let the politician's car pass through. uh, and which kind of really irked me, and I thought, like, well, like, this is not cool at all, right? Why does someone have to believe that their time is more important than anyone else's? And how else will all the politicians and all the VIPs realize that what most people go through in their daily lives without actually going through and having that privilege? So that thought kind of sparked the idea for the song. And in my car, I was just playing the instrumental version of the song, so I just started singing in a few lines, and that's when the idea came. And you won't believe, like, within a few minutes, I had the chorus down with me. And sometimes that's how it starts. And of course, it's an iterative process. So I went back home with that thought and kept thinking and writing and experimenting. So, but yeah, that was the thought. How at least this happened for Quest.
So, what do you have to say about, I mean, what do you have to tell people who wish to pursue their art and not fall into that whole corporate trap? So based on your experiences, what is it that you would like to tell, aspiring musicians today?
I think everything has its place. I really enjoyed my time in the corporate world as well, but there was something in me which kept telling me that I really have to give doing music full time a shot and see if it works for me or not. It might work for some, it might not, and obviously it's a lot more uncertain, this entire world of music, right? So you have to be ready for that. But at the end of the day, I feel that if you persist and if you stay patient and you like work hard enough, you do find your place sooner or later, right? For some it works out easier than the others, but I'd say just persist, stick to whatever you believe in, and really do it with all you've got.
Y'all have really, redefined the music space in Delhi, if I may ask, because I was just, generally telling a friend that, yeah, I am interviewing the band today, and she is from Delhi, and she said, man, I've heard these guys so much in so many college festivals and in so many places that I've frequented in Delhi. I've heard these guys, and these Antariksh is such an amazing band in general. I want to ask, um, I mean, your song, there's so much of resonance in your songs. When one listens to Rahia or one listens to Jile Zara, I think it's the matters of the heart and the matters of the mind that you all, always tap into through your songs is what helps you connect with the audiences. Is that a conscious effort to always make music that you're putting it out of passion, out of your interest towards that field, but is it also a conscious effort to make music that will strike a chord amongst the listeners?
And not really, as I mentioned, both lyrically and musically, we approach the songs quite differently. So, speaking, how we think of a musical idea is that whatever music we're listening to at a certain point in time, or, whatever we're inspired by, we try and work in that direction. So, for example, with Jile Zara, I had this long pending idea of wanting to bring in a dubstep section into a, very pop rock kind of a song. And for Rahi, I was revisiting some of my old MLTR music that I really almost like grew up listening to for the most part of my school and early college life. So that's kind of the starting point as as far as the music bit is concerned, right? We pick up an idea, we pick up a style. For example, with Fana, we wanted to experiment with a synth pop kind of a sound, but still keep it in a very rock context. Still make it sound like an Antariksh song. So that's the only conscious bit that's there when it comes to the music. As far as the lyrics are concerned, I think they're just more personality driven more than anything else. The idea is to just always write about topics that are kind of appealing to you at a certain point in time. So as I mentioned about Quest, right? The idea just came out of nowhere while just being stuck in a traffic jam. For Gile Zara, I worked with another lyricist who had, and we were wanting to actually write like a motivational youth anthem. So yeah, but generally, I think it's more personality driven that some of these ideas come up from. And then, I had this whole thing of, so I used to be quite involved in a meditation technique called Vipassana. And a lot of the lyrics are kind of influenced by some of the concepts and ideas of that meditation technique. And, stuff flows that way.
Let's speak about the music video of Quest, which I think took 5 months into the making. And I think you were really involved in the process of getting out this music video. So I want to ask you about what went into, the making of this music video.
Oh, it was a lot of fun and a lot of extraordinary effort, as I always say. I got introduced to this wonderful visual artist based out of Bangalore. His name is Pratik Dey. And in fact, he worked a bit on Prabdeep's video for Chitta as well, and that's how I got to know of him. And I reached out to him, and he found the, song and the whole idea, the concept around it quite interesting. So it was September when we started ideating and working on this, and it was an amazing journey working with him. I think he's such a great find, Pratik, for me. He was really, really professional. It started with, mapping out the energy dynamics of the song, that where the song's energy level is higher, where it's low, and then what kind of a visual style we want for it, what kind of character animation do we want to do, the whole narrative style. So all of that here was done really rigorously until we actually narrowed down to the concept that we chose for it. So that happened in the first 2.5 months, and the later 3 months were all about, the production of the video and the animatic, where Pratik had like a bunch of animators working for him. And then, of course, there's a lot of back and forth. So over the last month and a half, we did a bunch of iterations, and finally, this is what we have. And I'm really happy and really proud of, how it's all come about. I really feel, wherever it goes, whether it works, it doesn't work, it's really worth the effort and something that you do for yourself.
Varun, in the last couple of months, I've been speaking to artists about, their learnings during a very tough year as 2020. And I have, sort very diverse views on this. As a band, I'm sure, it must have been tough for you guys to keep your spirits up, with venues, staying shut for a long time, with no other source of really, performance. There are no live gigs, no live shows, nothing of those sorts. So how did you, as a band, how did you all manage to stay afloat, in a year like 2020? Of course, you all had your releases. Of course, there were music streaming platforms to the rescue. But what were your big learnings in a year like 2020? And because there were so many musicians who even took to social media. Instagram lives were a thing, Zoom performances were a thing. So right. How do you look at the year that went by?
I think I just kind of think of it as a year that's just kind of skipped from the calendar, right? It was really, really tough monetarily because there were no gigs, and that is the primary source of income for most of us. So yeah, that was completely out. But how I kind of wanted to, when the lockdown happened, we kind of knew that it's happening for at least good 5-6 months, and the approach was to kind of spend time learning new stuff. And earlier on, we used to always have this excuse that we were touring a lot, so the releases would keep getting delayed. So I kind of feel thankful that I finally got time to focus and get those releases out, got those videos finalized. And almost we've finished our second album, which is coming up really soon. So we took the time to sit and work on that, and we've put out 4 videos in the last 1 year now, and almost 5 singles. So that's been fun. But if you think of it, uh, monetarily, we've been hit quite bad. So some of the other guys in the band, Dan, Joshua, and Shrikant, they've all been teaching quite a lot. So they took to teaching more than anything else. And for me, I've just kind of focused on putting more music out, writing more music, and learning, and just thought of it as a year that we need to skip, and hopefully now things will get better. We did like a bunch of digital concerts as well, but hey, I mean, they're fine. They're not as much fun as playing actual concerts. And thankfully, last month we got back to playing our first gig in a year, and some more queries have started coming in, and it seems to be opening up a bit. So yeah, really looking forward to what's in store for this year.
So if I may ask Varun, on behalf of Antariksh, what are the big plans for 2021? Now, of course, that with the big release of Quest and the music video out, what's next in the pipeline for the band?
Right. So I think the next few days are going to be spent in trying to push this as much as possible. And then we've got like the second album coming up. So we'll probably be putting out another single in a couple of months from now before we put out the full album. So that's the plan. It's been long due. And that's pretty much all we have planned as of now. And really hoping that, by August, September, things open up and get back to normal so that we can get back on tours. And that's pretty much it for now.
Lastly, Varun, if I may ask, who are the other rock bands, which are the other rock bands y'all are following among the independent music scene that y'all really like listening to, and y'all think that, wow, I think they do put out great stuff out there?
Right. I think so. My favorite is, of course, Thermal and a Quarter from Bangalore. I've been following them for almost like 16 years now. And they just never fail to surprise you. Every now and then there's a completely new thing that they do. And Bruce and the gang, I really love those guys. Today, in fact, I kind of stumbled upon a new act called Jatayu. They were doing some Carnatic jazz influenced stuff.
Band. Yes.
Yeah, I just heard a couple of songs, and I was like, oh, this is really cool stuff. Again, then there's always Parikrama, right? So I happened to session as a guitar player for them, and I just can't wait to go back and play again with those guys. There's Parvaz, who's doing some great stuff. There's Local Train.
Yes, right? They're just unmistakable.
Yeah, absolutely. So really cool stuff happening. Daira put out a really cool song, I remember a few months back. So there's great music, right? I've seen this entire scene evolve over the last 10 to 15 years. And last 10 years have been massive, like so many people can now actually pursue music. And this, like the improvement in, the quality of music coming out from the Indian circuit is massive. So yeah, really excited about the times to come.
Well, Varun, all I can say is I wish you and Antariksh, the band, all the best. Keep giving us good music that you guys always do. And I really look forward to your second album. Can't wait for that. Thank you so much for joining us once again this afternoon. And I wish you all the luck, all the best.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Radio City.